There you go.
Okay. This is the entrails. I usually keep them in a baggie and I freeze them after we wash them and clean them. And I'll throw them out a little bit here and we'll talk about them. I mix all of my entrails up so that when I give somebody a package that has everything inside of it, all of the different things. I keep lungs in there. We put lungs in them. It's called headputs. They expand. We cut them in half. A lot of people like lungs with their cooked with their foods. This one is called Hipdehemon. It has the pages on it. We call it a Bible because the first book we ever saw that had pages was one of the black robes brought a Bible. So a lot of our people call it the Bible. It's one part of the gut. It's one that children love. See, with all the pages, all the different pages in it. They cut it up into chunks like this, and we cook it all together. Here is the bitter gut that I was given as a child. And this is how you braid it. My mother could braid one in each hand. I can barely do it with one hand. I mean, with both hands. It was given to, this is how my grandmother would braid it. When she gave it to me, she would say, "This belongs to you." And as you can see, it looks like a 3 braid. This is called Vicanis, the bitter gut.
Let me get the top of that so they can see exactly how you're doing it.
See, it looks like a 3 braid, but it's only done with one strand of gut. Nobody can do this anymore. You can cut it off into pieces, and if you take this off, you just have to take one off and then it'll slip through again. What happens is that if we have too much and we have no place to store it, you got to take all the fat, most of the fat off in the glands. But what we did was that this is how we stored it. This is how we dried it. And we dried it and hung it on a clothesline or a tree. When it dried, we saved it up for, we flattened it out, and then we put it in a bag and stored it for the winter. And we put it in the oven, and it crinkled all up, and we called it Cheyenne potato chips. But this is the bitter gut that I had. But because I like to store them for the winter, I put in a freezer and I give them away. I don't have room to blow them up. So this is how I store them, as I braid them. My grandmother would say, "This belongs to my grandson. he's going to watch it. Don't nobody take it. He's going to watch it. So she would put it in a pot, and usually I just got a little one. And she would put it in a pot, and she would say, take a stick and watch it. Don't let flies come around. I think she did this just so I would keep the flies away from it. But as a child, I always went with my grandmother or my mother when the ranchers would call. They would say, we have a cow that drowned in a creek. We drug it out. Do you want it? Of course we wanted it. So we would go across there. Sometimes in the old days it was with a wagon. And would butcher the cow and put it in a wagon and then would bring it home, and we would wash it. Before we had running water, we would wash it down in the creek. We'd chop a big hole. My dad would chop a big hole in the ice and would wash it just like we was washing clothes. We washed all the manure out of it and cleaned it real good. And me and my mother would wash guts, while my grandmother was already, when would clean one, my mom would braid one. She would say, run this into grandmother. Have her throw this in a pot too. We'll eat this. So I was always helping my mother. Here is a gut that many tribes have fought over. This is called a straight gut. It is filled with fat on the inside. When you get this, it is in a bag of fat, and you have to tear it open. And you have to be careful with it. Once you get it all straightened out, you tie the ends and put it on a table and wash it out. You can't allow manure to get on this fat. And what you do is you turn it inside out. You push the thing back inside out. And you just keep pushing, and eventually it turns inside out. So the fat's inside. The Crows and many of the tribes stuff these guts with tenderloin and other kinds of meats, wild onions, and they make kind of a sausage with it. They boil it and then they bake it. It's a delicacy. This is called straight gut, or duts. That's what the Cheyenne name for it is. We used to cook a lot of guts for the Lakota people, the kids, when they would come up to on their ride to the Little Bighorn. This is also part of a gut. They call it we used to call some of it army towel because it resembled a brown army towel. And they're all different textures. They look like hair. You even eat this part. This is the skin part, but here's where the all the manure and everything is on the inside of the cow's stomach, or the buffalo. This is what we wash off, and this is what we put into our stews. I see my daughter has put a lot of Bible in here because that's her favorite. It has the pages. I missed a couple that the honeycomb, the gut that's you buy in stores that is steam cleaned, so clean that it's pure white. That one is called a honeycomb that you make manoodle with. When they killed a buffalo and someone needed a medicine bag, they would cut off that growth, the honeycomb, which is a little pouch. And they would take the skin off of the inside of the skin off. They would peel the skin off, just like they would peel it here. They would peel the skin off, and that's what fit inside of their medicine bundle, was the inside the honeycomb gut. it was the lining of the medicine bundle. But all of these, I'm still missing a number of things. My daughter obviously didn't put them in there, but there's hikaken. That's another part of it that the old people love. It's part of the gut. But we clean it real good, and kids get angry when you cook it in the house because of the smell. But I give these packages, I mix them all together so that when I give them to somebody, they can just pour them in a pot. They are clean, and everything, all the different guts that we have will go in at one time. Instead of just having one type of gut, we have many, and we even include the lungs. So the Cheyenne people used everything except one part of a buffalo. It was called man fat, standardvich. That's the one that you threw away. You couldn't eat it. And it goes back to the story of the great race, when the buffalo raced man to see who would be the dominant being. But I have all different types in here, and those are my guts. This is the delicacy that I would rather have these than I would have a beef steak, a T-bone steak. This can outdo a beef T-bone steak in a minute. A lot of people ask about traditional foods, and to many people, traditional foods today are simple things like Indian taco that you get at the foods you get at the powwows and stuff. Well, I don't feel them as traditional foods. Traditional foods, I believe, are the foods of the old ones, long, long ago. The stories that are handed down to us. How you braid these guts. Very few people know how to do this. But I want to teach all the women how to do all of this, to how to identify all of them. I butcher mini buffalo, and I would like to do a course for just the woman, because it was the role. The women are the ones that do a real good job in cleaning and stuff. Men do not do good jobs. Women are meticulous in their cleanliness. But this, we freeze, and I give them away. A lot of the old ones love me because I give them. I have guts for them. So this will fill a great big pot. And you don't need to put potatoes in it. You don't need to put, some people put hominy in it. Some people put different things, but I like it just straight like this. A lot of us, when we were kids, we would take the Bible, the one that we call the Bible. We would take it and we would tear off one page. We would tear off one page. We would tie it in a knot. We would sprinkle it with salt, and it would eat it raw. When we used to come from Sheridan, Wyoming, and we'd go over there to get guts, and on the way back, the old man that we rode with would have 3 or 4 flat tires. So we'd have to unload everything from the trunk, and while we're waiting, the grandmother would tear off pieces of the skin from the Bible and give it to the kids, and she would hand us the salt that we'd sprinkle on top of it. And what I like to do is put it on a hot stove. Sprinkle salt on a hot stove and put this on a hot stove, and when it's cooked I flip it over and it jumps around, and this is how we cooked it to eat it while we were waiting. This is one of the traditional foods. All of this is. And it's as far as time when the Indians ate the entrails of animals. They ate every part of them. They were a medicine to them. I think a lot of our minerals and vitamins came from these entrails. It's because of what the animal had ate, the leaves that it ate, the grasses. See, when a man killed a buffalo, he usually killed a whole bunch of them. If he did, he was lucky to get 2 or 3. He would ask tell his buddies as he was coming, when everybody had their buffaloes, he would say, I'm going to call on the women to have this ceremony. They're going to come to my house, I'm going to honor them. They're going to come to my lodge, I'm going to honor them. I'm going to feed them buffalo tongue. Because when I ask for the women that know how to bead, these are the only women that can eat the tip of a buffalo's tongue. A man can't eat that part of it during a ceremony. That buffalo tongue was fed to these women that could bead. Many of the women that beaded buffalo robes had the same, it was like counting coup on the enemy. They were very powerful people. It was an honor for them to do the beating. But a lot of the young men would say, how many buffalo tongues do you have? And if he said 3, he says, well, I'll give you 2 more. That way you can invite more people. That way each one of them can get a buffalo tongue. I asked my mom about that when she told me. I said, why was it the tip of the tongue? She says, it was a holy thing, that it was believed that people that beaded had to have flexible fingers when they did their beading and their skills, their quill work. She says the tip of the tongue of a buffalo, it picks the best grasses and the best things to eat by the tip of its tongue. It feels with the tip of its tongue. So the gift of the buffalo befalls the woman that are honored by eating buffalo tongue, the tip of a buffalo tongue. They're the only ones that could eat that part. How's that?